This is Jessica, and you're listening to the Friendly Atheist podcast. I am here today with Gareth Reynolds. Gareth, say hey.
Hey.
He's the co-host of the Dollop and a stand-up comedian.
I think you said it like I'm a female.
Well,
I think you said
are you
comedian.
insulted by that?
No, I've got to change some of my POVs.
Wow. Weren't you the voted best stand-up in LA or something?
Yeah, something like that.
Is that on your business card?
It is, yeah, on the business cards for sure that I have. Yeah, no, it's on my business cards. Yeah, I think it was best comedian in Los Angeles, something to that effect.
Wow.
And then when you think about it, it's really New York or LA or Chicago. So it's like in LA, that's a pretty good win.
Sure.
Haven't felt the big bump from it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
no,
you got
no.
on this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I did book this one. That's true.
The Dollop is something I've listened to for a few years now. And actually, one of the reasons I want to have you on, besides the fact that Dave genuinely scares the shit out of me, like I feel like he would yell at me if he met me. I'm not sure why.
No.
But
that's the right thing to assume.
Am I reading that correctly?
Absolutely, yeah.
But so the Dollop is an American history podcast. Why don't you talk about it?
The Dollop is an American history podcast.
I got that one.
Yeah, you got that part down. And it is comedic in nature. And basically, Dave, this lunatic who knows a lot of stuff, will prepare a story from American history that has some relevance or is just bananas. And he reads it to me, and I don't have any idea what he's prepared, and then we just go into it, and he basically teaches me a story, and I'll do an accent or two, and bim, bam, boom.
And that's a podcast.
Hey, it's a Dollop. Hey, what are you going to do about it? Hey.
Why are you guys always in Australia?
They'll have us. You know?
I feel like once a year you get to go to Australia.
Yeah, well, that's you're right, because once a year I do get to go to Australia.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, we don't get to see a lot of stuff because it's very much just oriented towards getting, doing shows. But I've been all over there, and I've
seen a lot of venues.
Seen a lot of venues, seen a lot of airports, a lot of rooms, and I like them. But yeah, no, the last time we were there, we had 3 days in this place called Byron Bay, which is like right on the beach.
Yeah.
And gorgeous. And we had one show to do, and the show was terrible. And but the 3 days on the beach were just unreal. We were so happy. It was the best. We became like fully aquatic. I don't think Dave, I think, has decided he's not going to release that one. Yeah. But I think you should, because it's just sort of like, at one point, a guy I don't even know how many people are there. For us, not a lot. And a guy up front in the front row, like a movie, is trying to quietly open a cookie, like a wrapped cookie, like a loud cellophane wrapped cookie or whatever, and plastic. And so he's trying to do it slowly, which is worse.
Sure.
So it's going on for like a minute until I'm finally like, sir, open your goddamn cookie.
Well, I'll stop while you open your cookie.
You know things are good when this is occurring.
Do you think he stole it? Like he snuck that cookie into the venue? Or did they sell cellophane wrapped cookies in a venue?
Actually, if my memory serves, he ended up giving me some of that cookie.
And?
It was unbelievable. It was like the best cookie. I was like, what is this? It was some charitable cookie. It was some like not like made by orphans in like a gruel den.
Sure.
But it was like money went to charity. But I got it for free. But we mended
so you
fences.
None of your money went to charity.
No. I took.
Yes,
I took. I was a net winner.
But you guys have been doing the show since what, 2015-ish?
Something like that.
And I started listening about I was moving when I started listening, so I was like unpacking boxes, like rearranging my closet, and listening
in that fun
to like
phase.
Super fun, and like listening to people talking about fucking dolphins or whatever.
Sure.
And one of my favorite things that sort of happened over the span of the show with you guys was you started very much as like, I don't know shit about shit, and you're just gonna tell me things. And with the political climate changing, it's gotten so much more poignant, and to see you become so much more invested after learning history is a really kind of cool thing to have witnessed.
Yeah, if for me, it's like it's almost like when you look at your own face, you don't see it age because it's like you look at it all the time. So like for me, like people have noted that, and I'm like, I don't know because it has been gradual for me.
Right.
It's been an actual natural occurrence. But yeah, I think even when you think about, it's kind of, that we've been lucky in some of the ways that things have timed out, like, or just kind of locked in together. Like the way that I know nothing and the way that Dave knows everything was just a happy accident.
Yeah.
And like, I think in a way, the way that I've sort of learned about our history and sort of learned about our current day problems has kind of matched up with the deterioration of our kind of government and political system. And not that it's been great ever, but
right.
That kind of paired well, I guess. The ruining of our civilization has sort of like timed out nicely for the show.
What do you think does it make you feel better or worse that history just keeps repeating itself and seems to do so forever? Because I remember listening to the Know Nothing Party, which was, I think, an 18th century.
Yeah,
it was the modern day Republican Party 200 years ago or whatever. And it was like, oh shit, it's the same thing. It's not even like rebranded. It's the same.
Yeah, I would feel, well, I think you do take comfort in the idea that, that we, it's kind of, there's two sides of the coin. You've got our resilience for being dumb is profound, but it also shows that we're always capable of comebacks. I would feel better if we didn't have the biggest problem in the world right now being fairly ignored by the media and the government. So I think in any other time, it's like, yeah, whatever. You want to go through your little white supremacist phase again? Let's have a laugh. But I think with the climate change issue, to me, it's like that is a thing we can only learn that lesson. We get the opportunity to learn it one time, and it's not sticking. So
it really isn't. There was an episode y'all did recently, I can't remember their name, but about the Fiji water people monsters.
The Resnicks,
The Resnicks. Wow, they were the pits. I was talking to a buddy of mine who has listened to the Dollop for a few years, and he was like, literally, I was listening to that episode in the shower, and I think I became a socialist in the shower.
Yeah.
And it's just wild that as soon as you kind of look close enough at what's happening, you see the patterns, and you're like, well, it didn't work last time.
Yeah, well, I think that, we keep discovering new ways to kind of get fucked by our system. And so, but capitalism and the way that the money and the power is distributed through capitalism, like whoever is still fighting for that plan has just been polluted with nonsense. Because that you can argue that like socialism or whatever ism is not the answer, but capitalism has not worked.
It's not working.
Capitalism is not working, and you're seeing now the profound effect of what happens when, we've slowly, gradually been learned to purely focus on money and material, and that's where we are now. We're at the peak of our capitalist. It's no longer like we want to be the richest nation, which felt like the 80s. It's now like we want to be independently the richest,
and fuck everyone. Like not just we don't care, but like literally fuck you. Like
well, there's no. If in the way the system is set up today, it's like. Those who have the money will do anything to hold on to it. And, that's what you say now.
One thing I think is...
We're brought to you by Dentine. Dentine gum, the only gum that is looking to overthrow the government.
I think it's interesting that in the early day... So I know you guys had Karen Kilgariff and Georgia Hardstark on in the early days. And I remember at some point, Dave's like, we're not doing any like serial killers. Serial killers aren't funny. You guys do a lot of things that are aggressively unfunny. Like, do you know where he finds the line between I can't make comedy out of this versus...
Well, I know that he approaches it with me in mind to some extent.
Oh, interesting.
So I know that he's empathetic towards what am I going to try to have fun with. And, Yeah, I mean, look, we've there's one episode we did that was so dark that we just were like, after we were finished recording it. This is a while ago, and he's just like, well, we can't release that. And I'm like, I don't know what to do, man. I'm like, that was brutal. So for the most part, I think, I mean, I guess it would be what interests him, but I think he will also say no to stuff if he thinks that I'm not going to enjoy it. And, when, the more the show's gone on, the more it's like you're a little more affected by like, well, should I make that joke? And you think about the way things are now, it's a little more treacherous than it's been before. So I think it's just an awareness of that. But as you can see by My Favorite Murder, there is obviously an entertainment value to it. I mean, you turn on headline news, it's like, you guys are, what headlines are these? These are forensic files from the 80s.
You are known for have you always been like a guy who does accents? Because your mom's British?
Well,
English.
Yeah, my mother's English. My whole family is basically British-ish.
But you grew up in Wisconsin.
I grew up in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm. I'm from Chicago. My folks live in Lake Geneva right now because they're old whites, and that's where old whites go.
Absolutely, old whites. Yeah, I mean, I honestly, the truth is that I grew up with a lot of people who just had different accents. And so it was very natural for me to do like an impression of my mother. Mm-hmm. It just so happened that she had an accent, or doing one of my father. And then, and that sort of just branched off. And, when I thought I could kind of had like a little bit of a skill for it, I think it made me want to try to do other ones. And like, I fully remember my brother and I making a choice to try to get good at Scottish accents one summer. We were like, we're going to talk all summer like we're Scottish people. And we went to Canada at one point, and we were in Canada. We were just drunk, and we're walking around and we're being Scottish, and everybody thinks we're Scottish. And then we run into a Scottish person who's like, where in Scotland are you from? And we're like, Kilmarnock. And he goes, where's Kilmarnock in Scotland? And we're like, it's southern, northern tip, And he's like, mate, this is bullshit. Let's get out of here,
We've been busted.
Yeah.
Run.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about the Irish accent thing, because it's something that's come up on my show too. And a close buddy of mine is from Ireland, and we've had many conversations about like the perception of Irish people in the U.S. versus in the UK and in Ireland.
Sure.
And it's a thing that genuinely blew my mind, because I remember being young and watching some movie, and somebody made a comment about like, oh, that guy's Irish. And I'm mostly Irish. Like most people I knew are Irish. Mm-hmm. It was like saying you're Italian or Polish or whatever. It was just a different white. But it's such a different, in the UK and Europe, it's such a different vibe there. Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Well, I always, it always seemed to me that when I was a kid growing up in Wisconsin, Polish people in America were who you just plucked out of the randomness of the world to be like, they're dumb.
Yes, I'm married to a Polish husband. He's aware of those things.
Yeah, and so and in Wisconsin, there are a lot of Polish people, like the Midwest in general. And so, but it always felt akin to that to me, like that the Irish were sort of treated as, they are perceived as the Polish, quote unquote, stereotype of someone who's stupid in the UK. So they've dealt with a lot of shit as far as lack of respect.
Yeah, and obviously in the US when they first immigrated in.
Yes.
Yeah, because I think I did a very like silly and dumb Irish accent and like apologized for it immediately. And a guy wrote in and like he absolutely was right. He was like, "That's a really shitty thing to do," and I was like, "That's my bad." Like, and it's just something that never would have occurred to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we live in, not only the world we live in today, I think in general, you really, if someone is upset or offended by something that you do, you have to at least hear them out. I think the problem with today is there's a lot of odd kind of outrage over things that are, not outrageous as much, or just don't maybe need that level of treatment. And, but I think you have to hear people out. And so, there's a guy who since I first started doing podcasts, this Irish dude named Glenn, who has always been supportive of me, and like on Twitter, we'd always go back and forth. And he's one of these guys who always just messages me. He's just like, "Don't listen to the Irish." Like he's just like, "Keep fucking going, man. It's hilarious." And there's certainly a sect of people who are like that, and then there's people who are sensitive. And I think it's different because if you're white, it feels like that's territory that's okay. Because it's other whites.
Yeah.
And because you don't think that. I mean, but you could say the same about any race joke or anything. It's like, even if it is totally like not based in truth to you and it's totally a joke, it still can offend people. And, because of history, you gotta listen.
Yeah, and it's not fun to make jokes at other people's expense. Or I don't think it's fun to make jokes at other people's expense necessarily.
It sucks when someone calls you out and says that what you did for the sake of a joke hurt them. I mean, it definitely sucks. I think comedians listen to it in varying amounts, know, and I think it's good because I think it's good for comedians to push back on things and to test language and to test boundaries. I think that is absolutely part of it and important. But I think it's also there's a dialogue, and if you have upset someone, you definitely at least owe it to someone to hear them out,
right?
And,
what do you think?
Have a rational conversation.
What do you think when comedians say that like PC culture ruined comedy? Because to me, that just sounds like I'm too lazy to write new jokes within the new that are updated and relevant, so I'm mad.
I think part of the thing that comics struggle with, and I get it, is that if two comics are vicious. It is nothing is off limits, and you just it's very it's good. It's good to have your balls busted. It's good to have people make fun of you and give you shit, and it's good to give it back, and it's all that, and it makes you a more chill person. So comics view the world like that, and society used to be okay with comics doing any of that. The way it is now, I think it's a mixed bag. I can't personally draw a line where I'm like, this is what's okay and this is what isn't. I will say that for all the people who are outraged by what Louis C.K. said, which I understand being outraged by what he said, there's also people who should be outraged at the fact that comedians are not able to go and work on their material in front of an audience who is there just to see them and record and have it recorded before they've really decided if they want people to hear it or not. But I think that comedians, to your point, do need to understand that, I mean, I saw a comic a few years ago do something right after the Boston bombing that was like so offensive and not like funny. And so, yeah, I think, you need to have a level of respect for people in a different way today.
Yeah, I've heard a couple different reactions to the Louis C.K. thing, and one of them was, like, be mad that he was shitty to survivors or to non-binary people or whatever, but, like, it wasn't funny, and that sucks even worse.
Yeah, and I think that part, that's what, as a comedian, you're like, sucks.
Yeah.
Is because it's like, yeah, well, he wasn't done. I mean, he really, as a comedian,
right.
Despite what his material was, he wasn't ready for people to hear that shit. And I know when you go out there with a new joke, it's totally not ready for anyone. You're meticulously sneaking it in to your act so that it has like space between good jokes where you can slowly sneak it in and test it out. And if someone releases that, I get being pissed about that. I also get being disappointed in the subject matter that he was discussing.
Yeah. Do you think there is an inroad for a Louis C.K. type to come back, or do you think?
I think there is. I mean, I think. Look, when you really take the overview of what he did, it really is so fucked up and vile that it's hard to imagine him having mainstream success on the level that he did. Just because, like, I think. For everybody, it just changes the way you look at him. I mean, when something like Kevin Spacey, I mean, not that that's the same thing, but it still is like sexual predatory nature changes the way you view someone.
Right.
And so when you see him, I can't laugh at Louis C.K. as easily as I did. So I think that'll hamper him. I still think he will. I still think he has an audience of loyal people who want to see where his mind goes, because he does have a really interesting comedic take on the world. And so I think people will support him, and he'll find a way to monetize it. He won't be at the Emmys accepting Emmys,
right?
Again.
Well, I think it's interesting because when he did that set on, I don't know, like 6 months, 9 months after the accusations came out, and he went on, and everyone was like, well, like, does he never get to work again? Is he have to live with this forever? But like, the problem is he didn't apologize or do anything to make anything right. He just hibernated for a little bit.
It also
hoped we forgot about it.
Extremely premature. It felt to me like that, like your mental clock for outrage. I think you just, you've got to take more time than that. I mean, I think you just kind of got to go ride the pine for a little longer than that.
Yeah, and I just wish he had done literally anything aside from disappear.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, the truth is that it was known in entertainment for so long.
It's so weird because I feel like I remember his last Netflix special came out, and I had heard enough just online and like through the rumor mill. I had heard enough that I remember watching it and thinking, I bet this is gonna be the last time I watch like a Louis C.K. special. Yeah. And I had the same feeling with I watched Seven with a bunch of my friends, and it's a Kevin Spacey movie, and I was like, am I gonna be able to watch this? Because I feel like some shit's about to go down with Spacey, and it's, I don't know. I'm always really, do you have an opinion on like? So Seven is one of my favorite movies. Have you seen it?
It's in the box.
Yeah. Okay. Oh my God, you have. Yeah. That's such a niche cultural reference you made. You should be really proud.
Yay! I did it.
So Kevin Spacey's a monster, and
But get to the plot of the movie.
I see what you did there.
Hey guys, Dentine. It's the chewiest mint gum.
They're never going to give me money. How do you make money on a podcast? You guys make money, right?
We just say sponsors like Dentine.
And then they just write you checks?
I think. I don't know. I don't get a lot of the mail.
Juicy fruit.
Yeah.
It's juicy and fruity.
No, that's a conflict because we have Dentine.
Fuck.
Hey, screw you, Juicy Fruit. Yes. You're in Dentine land, assholes. How dare you? Also, bananas. Oh, how about those things, huh, guys? Gotta peel them? And there's only one kind, and they could go extinct. Get them while they're hot.
Almonds! No, wait, we don't like almonds.
No.
Pistachios we don't like.
No nuts.
Fuck. This is hard.
It's not easy.
No wonder why there aren't that many podcasts.
You see the experience before you.
Anyway, and I'm done talking about that. Do you think it is possible to go through... So I remember in like the midst of 2016, I heard some talk... Dave just like chattering about, he would get some shitty emails about like, oh, you're being unfair to Trump, or you're too liberal, or do you think it's possible to listen to the back catalog of the Dollop and still come out with like a conservative mindset?
I think you could. Well, we still have conservative listeners. We definitely do. We meet some of them, and they might be now a little more on they might identify more as libertarians.
Oh, so white dudes.
White people.
Yes.
And in Texas. And but I think it is. I think, the truth is that right now it's still such a tense, tender time with him and people who support him and people who despise him, that I think that, I think we're all at the point now where it's like you view if the person supports or doesn't support him less as a political opinion and more as like a character issue. So either side now looks at the other person as a lunatic.
Yeah.
So I think that we go through that, even though we both definitely thought he probably would win or had a great shot at winning.
You both thought that?
Yeah, we both had a feeling that just because Dave probably for more realistic reasons, but because I was just like, you cannot put... When options like that are out there, we, in my lifetime, have always gone for them, the bad choice. But I think that, I definitely think our politics come across in the show as we're going through that. I think they probably are a little less now because we've just kind of been lulled into submission about it.
Do you think... anybody could hold up under the scrutiny of a Dave Anthony. Like, if you did, like, do you think there are many people who would come out looking good if they got it? Because to be fair, like, you have done more conservative figures of late, but Dianne Feinstein was somebody y'all did, and she did not come off great.
Yeah.
Do you think it is just a matter of if you look at anybody that closely, you're gonna find all their garbage?
I think that...
Or I guess, is it just the kind of person that goes into politics is also the kind of, like,
I think
sociopath?
There's something very special about politicians.
Yeah.
There's a screw that is loose in the mind of most, I would say, outside of this last election, most people who run for elected office. I mean, at least who get elected to high office, they're crazy.
Yeah. Well, there has to be a sense of narcissism that, like, you look at the world, the country, and you're like, I can do this.
It's its own form of entertainment. It's a different occupation, but a similar itch to scratch. It's these people who have egos. They like seeing their faces everywhere. They like when balloons drop for them. But I think Dave would probably eviscerate most people that tried to debate him.
Yes.
But there are people who are very savvy debaters, so I could see it going either way there. But he knows his shit. I mean, he really sees the forest through the trees on a lot of the BS that's out there. And so I think, I mean, I've gotten into arguments with him, and
Didn't he yell at an Uber driver once or something?
Well, we had an Uber driver, I think a Lyft driver actually, who was playing, I can't remember who it was, but very conservative talk show host.
Oh, no.
And so I right away was like, oh, this is amazing. And Dave bit his tongue for probably like 4 minutes, and then just brought up that Dave was just like, what this guy is saying is total horseshit. And the guy was like, what? And then and they just went at it, and Dave went crazy on the guy. And as we were driving by, I was filming Dave yelling at this guy, obviously, and I zoomed in on a sign that said "Caution, blind person" as we were driving by. It timed out really well. But yeah, I mean, you know, there's a lot of people who are extremely misinformed right now. So I think he has no problem trying to correct them. And I think the truth is, if you abandon the kind of democratic platform, like quote unquote democratic platform, it's harder for people to undercut you. Because if you're like, I don't support them either. Right. You're like, I'm saying this whole establishment is a problem. I think that helps your argument, because then you're saying, I'm not mincing words. Because the truth is, when you get outside of, if you were to say to people, Trump or Hillary, do you think those were the best two people? Most people would say those were not the best two people.
Right.
As two people.
Right.
You know, so, but yes, Dave's a monster.
I genuinely, like, I feel like I've had this conversation. My brother is also, will you say hi to Kevin for me?
Hey, Kev Bo. What's up, baby girl?
We've literally had the conversation of like, I would get a beer with Gareth. I would not get a beer with Dave. He terrifies me in a fundamental way.
Well, he's also a very chill dude. I mean, he really is.
Are you sure?
Yeah, for sure. He is definitely he's a good hang, chill guy.
Do you see this face? This is incredulity.
Yeah. I get you. No, but he is. He's a fucking goofball. I mean, he really is. He's like, he's goofing off as much as I am, as far as just because it's just him and I.
Yeah, no,
so
I mean,
like
he's
you spend
extremely
a lot of
funny.
time.
I don't want to discount. He's extremely funny.
Yeah, but he's a dumbass too. He's like an idiot. He's also like a guy like he bangs his suitcase into my suitcase the whole time we travel together, and it just is obnoxious. And people around us are like, "Are they fighting?" And it's just like a terrible vibe. And it happens every time we travel, the whole time basically.
And he does always take video of you sleeping on planes.
Yeah, he always films me sleeping
which
on planes.
Is funny 100% of the time.
Yeah, not for me. Not for me, because he never says, I gotcha.
It just shows up.
Yeah, I just like an hour later, someone will be like, he's adorable at this age. And I'm like, wait, who quoted that on what? And I'll get on it, and I'm like, you son of a bitch. He's like, what?
Do you think there could be a conservative version of the Dollop? Because a thing that I've kind of noticed of late is that liberals, and say what you will of us as a monolith, we can be idiots for sure, but we can poke fun at ourselves in a way that I feel like conservatives can't do. But like, I feel like I have made the joke of like, I am being peak white person. I'm being peak liberal person. Like, I drove 20 minutes out of my way so I could go to a Michael's instead of a Hobby Lobby. Like, hashtag peak liberal. I feel like I don't see that. Like, I feel like there's no sense of irony among conservatives. There's like the AK-47 girl in a bathing suit. And I'm like, is this self-parody? I don't think it is. You seem very earnest.
Well, they're definitely different senses of humor. I think conservatives find, and again, I mean, there are different kinds of conservatives.
Sure.
I think there are definitely, like, I've, with traveling, doing stand-up, I mean, I've gone on the road and, I've had conservatives come up to me at the end of stuff and be very complimentary. I've also totally felt alienating them while I'm up on stage and never heard from them again. But I think conservatives find, not too different from liberals in some way. They find humor in people who are similarly like-minded. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think it's just a different set of humor. But I mean, like, when I watch, I'm sure there are other, like Ron White. I think Ron White is a funny comedian.
Yeah.
And he is like certainly got more of a conservative base and people who probably are more conservative like him. But Ron White is genuinely funny.
Yeah.
So
but
there are certain people who I think,
yeah.
But to me, I like people who like tell me what they think and like tell me what is wrong with the world. Like I will take Bill Hicks over any comedian.
Sure.
Every time,
Yeah. So I've recommended your podcast to my dozen of
What's
listeners.
up, Kevin? Sorry.
Okay, so I went the first time y'all came to
Kevin
Chicago.
loves Dentine. Dentine gum, the only gum Kevin will chew.
The whitest teeth in the Blumke family. Everyone says that about him.
The whitest teeth and a white teeth supremacist.
He just had hip surgery. He's 35.
Whoa, what's going on?
He CrossFitted too hard, I think.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's fine. But I don't know why I brought that up.
Put the kettlebell down, baby.
The first time we saw y'all in Chicago, which was a year and a half ago or something like that, a bunch of us went out to a bar later, and I had gotten my brother, because I was like, Kevin, you need to listen to The Rube. It's going to change your life. And which is genuinely maybe my favorite episode of any podcast. It is the fucking funniest thing I have ever heard. Like, The Rube is about this guy who is a baseball player and an idiot. Is really it.
Yep.
And a genius at baseball and literally nothing else.
Yeah. Yes.
I really liked that he sent
a savant.
I really like that when he'd sent his sent his defense team into the dugout. I was like, I got this.
Yeah.
I'm pitching.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah.
Anyway, there was
like
like
a toddler.
And he got distracted by puppies.
Yeah. It's insane.
So good.
Yeah.
That's like episode 4 too. It's
early, yeah.
Early.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's like 12 of us, and I realized like I'd gotten my brother into it, and he got all of his friends into the Dollop. There's like
my Kevin.
14 of us that went, and I was really trying to take credit for getting them all into the podcast, but
it's Kevin.
Well, he is the charismatic leader, yes.
Yeah.
But I'm the brains.
Can he still turn people onto the show with the hip?
He
or is
seems
that
to be
turn too
healed.
much?
I see what you did there.
Uh-huh.
A turn pun?
Uh-huh.
That's good.
That's right.
That's very good. Why was I talking about my brother again?
You just were like, he's got these great hips, but he broke one of them because he's obsessed with his body and his form.
I guess.
He's like Shakira.
I remember now. Thank you for vamping while I thought of words. But anyway, so listeners of this podcast, I often will recommend the Dollop too because I feel like it's a similar bent. Because we do, generally when we don't do interviews, it's like just digesting the news of the week as it relates to, you're a huge listener, huge fan.
This is the only show I run to.
Yeah,
and Speedwalk too. It's my own. This is my Speedwalk show.
Wow, thank you. Do you have ankle weights or just?
Not now because I'm getting close to an event. So I take them off now to see what that training has sort of done.
You don't want bulky muscles. You want long, lean.
Well, the whole thing, you want stilted bones with speed walking is what you're really after. Actually, Kevin would love it because of his sore hip.
Yeah, well, one leg's shorter than the other now, so he's kind of a...
Knees are your enemies.
Sure.
And a knees, we call them. And because you can't bend them in any way, so the whole thing, it's really... It's a lot of like... Picture like the He-Man toys in the 80s. It's that level of motion.
Gotcha.
It's just like someone squeezing your legs a little and your arms can move.
And you hobble?
You hobble, yeah.
It's a hobbling?
It's a move. It's a fast moved hobble.
What was I talking about?
You were talking about...
my podcast, which is your favorite podcast.
My favorite podcast.
Your favorite podcast, which is called...
The podcast is
that you're
called,
on right now.
What is it called?
The Friendly Atheist.
Friendly Atheist.
Yeah, sure. Tip of your tongue.
It was.
You should have just checked your tattoo. Your Friendly Atheist tattoo.
Well, it's on my ass. So I can't.
God, that would have been really awkward. Anyway, we normally do.
How dare you? Rude.
I'm rude. You're on my podcast. You don't know what the show is called.
That's not rude. I knew it too. This is why I can't have a relationship because it's all that sort of stuff.
Because people keep telling you you're wrong when you're wrong.
Because people will be like, "What was the name of that shoe I got?" And I'm like, "What?" It's like the one I told you 8 times. I'm like, "Oh my god, it's constant tests."
Old ball and chain at it again.
Yeah. What's
Take
my name?
Wife, please.
Yeah, here we go.
What's my mom's
What's my name? Oh my god, I can't do these hoops.
Anyway, so we do like a News Digest thing from a lens of religion, LGBT, like in kind of everything that touches. So like LGBTQ rights, feminism, all that stuff. So when I tell people when I tell listeners they should listen, I usually say the second or third is the Charity Bowl, Purity Bowls episode. Yeah. And I'm like, just start there. You'll get it. You'll sort of get what they're doing. And I feel like from that sort of set of there's a lot of religion and cult bullshit that happens in U.S. history. Is there any trend you've noticed aside from just like sociopathic men who need to control people? Like, do you see religion used as a tool throughout history to manipulate smaller, large groups?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Do you anything stand out?
I mean, there's so many. The truth... Well, there's no... Murder has been committed in the name of religion more than anything else. Uh-huh. So, and the beauty of religion is that it takes the absurd and legitimizes it because it's faith or, however it's sold to someone. So when you have that, the manipulation can take place on a scale that is so much crazier because you've been told by a deity to do these things. And this is scripture. This is something that's, been predetermined.
It's not, I don't want this. It's not me.
Wacky God up there needs you to kill your brother. So, I mean, the truth is that even outside of religion, our show has a lot of crazy white dudes who lie their way all the way to the top. And that happens with religion, and that also happens with medicine. I mean, in some of the dollops where, it's like cures or, it astounds you sometimes the level of lying that people will go to and feel okay because they make money. And that's when you think of our government now, you're like, they couldn't be that horrible. They are that for sale.
One of my favorite, intellectual exercises is somebody like, say, the head of the Mormon Church who said, or the Pope, or somebody who says, like, God is speaking to me.
Yeah.
And I am dying of curiosity. Like, if there's one question I would want answered is that guy psychotic and hearing voices, or is he straight up and down lying?
Well, what do you think?
And I want you to answer me. I don't know. Like, when you hear about people who try, who's the guy who invented like Wheaties and it was supposed to stop people from masturbating?
Oh, Kellogg.
Yeah, the Kellogg's. Did I get that right?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
Cornflakes. Like, he was just saying shit, and I just don't know if he really believes it or not. And further, which is worse?
Well, when you see a preacher on the telly, televangelist, what
people in Wisconsin say?
yeah. What do you think? Do you think that they believe it, or do you think that they are corrupted, or do you think it's a combination?
I mean, it has to be a combination.
Yeah, that's what I think it is.
Because, especially when you see the people who are talking, who the Hemet usually corrects me when I can't think of the right word, not fortune, but anyway, the people who say like, give me $1 and it sows the seeds and you'll get $1 million back. And they then turn around and buy like a fucking jet or whatever. I think there's something in me that cannot believe somebody can be that evil and that abusive of people who genuinely look up to them. But I think that's just my own naivete. Yeah,
I think it happens slowly. I think just like anything else, like anyone who works in the oil business.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a morality issue there now.
Yeah.
You know, but you're around people who are also culpable. And so you sort of convince yourself that you're a necessary evil or that you're so valuable that you are allowed to manipulate reality because of the meaning you give to people. And I think within that as well, you are trying to make as much money as possible.
Yeah.
So,
and I think also when we're talking like oil industry people, there is an element of, well, now people depend on me, not just my family, but I'm hiring.
Well, and you're also going to hear biased statistics, which is what religion is. So you're going to hear someone who's saying, you know, it's almost like every prop, you know, when it's prop voting season, they misinform people on props very easily.
And it's so easy to do, and nobody thinks they're vulnerable to it.
And the way they do it every time is that they just tell you the counter is going to cost you money. So you've got Prop 10. Prop 10, you know, is going to make it so that chickens are able to actually roam outside when it says free range, whatever. Prop 10, anti-Prop 10, mom in the grocery store. Well, it's going to cost me more money on my taxes. Well, everything costs fucking tax money.
Right.
You know, so I think that's essentially what they do. They tell you that they convince you that the alternative is crazy and bananas, and they convince themselves that in order to, you know, if they were to be honest with people and say, "Oh yeah, I don't talk to God," they would be taking away value that some people have religion from, and they're going to make money while they do it. And I think that's how people in government are too. People in government are like, well, we can only help so much. You know, you got to cover your back, you know, because you get paid shit being a congresswoman, so you don't get paid shit. So since they don't pay for your housing, you know, you need to make a little money to. I mean, and I'm not saying that it's crazy. Our system is fucked. Our system fucks these people who don't make a ton of money and doesn't help them with housing and stuff. So you can see the slippery slope someone goes on where they say, all right, I'm going to take $10,000 and it's just for rent. Well, then you're for sale.
Yeah.
And once you're for sale, it's hard to undo that because you get addicted to power and money.
And I saw an interesting take when Trump was like, I'm going to waive my $200,000 salary or whatever. Yeah. Or Congress people saying the same. And somebody made a really good point of like, that's a bullshit thing to do because that is then that's now setting a purity test of if you take money for doing your job, you're whatever, corrupt, greedy. Yeah. You're only doing it for the money, which like whatever. And that also means that like somebody like me, if I wanted to run for government, I couldn't say like, oh, I don't need the money. I'm doing it because I believe in the power of the people. And that means people like me could never run for, there's many reasons I couldn't run for office, but I'm not in the financial status to run for government. Yeah. And so we have an oligarchy and here we are.
Wah, 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 wah.
Wow, that was so fun. I really like ending on a down note.
Hey, Dentine. The only gum that'll pick you up when you're down. Dentine with Prozac.
I would buy that.
Yep.
I'm already on Prozac, though.
Sounds like someone is strangling a baby chicken.
I mean, maybe. And this is a very shady hotel.
I like it.
I mean, it's nice. I walked in. This is would you describe this setup that I'm living on right now?
Oh, the thing that you're on right now? It looks like Freud. If Sigmund Freud only saw patients under 4 feet.
It's like a tiny fainting couch.
Yeah.
And I walked it. So my husband.
And it's set in a very like
what is
nobody would ever sit there.
What is the use of this?
It's what a hospital provides a griever.
God. Yeah. Yes. But I walked in and I was like super stoked because I stayed at the Sheraton last time I was here and there was like a desk with chairs.
Sure.
Like humans use.
But do you use, besides a podcast, would you ever use the desk?
I think they have to assume anybody who's in Southern California is recording a podcast.
That's
it's
true.
just statistically likely.
Fair.
I mean, people work in the hotel room probably.
Yeah, but at the desk? What are you, like, writing the Constitution over there?
Well, you need a laptop.
You need a quill?
I need you to understand that people have jobs that require desks.
I know, but I work. I have to work on a computer all the time.
But I couldn't work on my lap, though.
I do. I lay in the bed and work.
Yeah, but you write comedy. Like,
but it's still work. I'm still, like, posture-wise.
I'm sorry. I'm not implying that writing comedy isn't work. I am saying that, like, when I'm working, I need, like, charts to look at and things to refer to, so I need to have like that can't be done on the space of a bed. More space on the bed than your desk. You can't get your pie charts out on the bed a little bit? Is this the hill you're gonna die on?
What?
Is this the hill you're gonna die on? People don't need desks? Are you on an anti-desk crusade?
Standing desks have had a huge year.
Fucking no. And fuck that shit.
Hold on.
Oh.
I'm going one step further. Lay down desks.
Now, which
leads me to the ultimate upside downsies desks, which is where people work upside down.
Now, I need to go back. Lying down desk. Is it somehow? Is it like above my head, or is it
now? It is
perpendicular.
It's now above your head. It wasn't before,
but now it is.
Now it's all above your head. So now it's a lot of magnets. It's a whole thing.
I'm kind of into that now.
Yeah. Well, you're gonna love upside downsy desks. They're insane.
Sounds wild.
It's really hard to adjust to.
Great for the core, though.
Really good for the core.
Yeah. Fucking, this is a dumb podcast. I'm sorry you came here for this.
How dare you?
No, you're not dumb. This hotel room and podcast are dumb.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, my point is, I came in here. This would be fine if it was just my husband traveling, but there's 2 drawers in here, and so we've just hidden everything away because humans are coming into this room.
You are pretty unpacked. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
I've started doing that on like stand-up weekends. I'll unpack.
I find it very gratifying to unpack.
I like taking that half hour when you get there, establish yourself.
Because otherwise, my suitcase just explodes.
Yeah,
and it just takes up 3/4.
When we go on longer tours, there's no option other than living in the case, and it just becomes this whole pit of like, what's clean, what's working? Oh, damn it!
I don't want to brag. I lived in a hostel in London for 5 months, and it was like the size of this kind of bedroom area. And there was like one wardrobe where you could hang things. So I just had an area on the ground where I just had like folded things. It was a nightmare. It was such a mess all the time.
You got your little front couch now.
Yeah.
Throw some stuff on
This is
there.
where I live now.
Yeah, it's your home.
I can move in. Anyway, Gareth, is there anything you would like to plug?
You can find my stand-up dates at GarethReynolds.com. The Dollop has a website, DollopPodcast.com, and there's a tour schedule there. We will be in Phoenix and Los Angeles the weekend of the 18th and 19th.
Phoenix and Los Angeles.
That's right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You excited about Phoenix?
No.
What's the worst place to go do comedy?
Honest to God, this last weekend, I'm not... I don't want people to be upset if anyone lives here, but I was in Syracuse, and it was a very weird little experience.
Why?
There was a lot
of... Was it like college-based, or was it just the city?
I think there were not a lot of college kids there right now. I think they're
winter.
still on like break, but it was pretty weird. I mean, it's hard to explain. It was a mixed bag. I had one of my favorite sets I've ever had, and then I had one of my least favorite shows ever. I mean, like... People who came to see me were like, sorry about that. I was like, man, it's just brutal.
Okay, I opened, when I was doing stand-up more, I opened for my buddy who's a mentalist.
Nice.
I hate to brag on this podcast, but I do have a friend who's a mentalist. Right. And I opened for his show. There were 12 people in the audience. I bombed in such an epic way, and there were so few people I could see all their faces. Yeah. And then I sat in the back of the theater and watched his show and drank a box of wine, like those.
Yeah, obviously I know what you're doing.
And as they were leaving, a woman put her hand on my shoulder and goes, "Comedy's hard."
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Oh, I mean, I over the years I've had obviously many experiences where I've felt like I couldn't get lower and found a way. But this weekend was just one of those. It was a weird town, and Syracuse was fucking weird. I was like walking around trying to find things, and there was nothing.
find
and normally like stores, restaurants,
Oh.
whatever, name it.
Uh-huh.
And it was not easy.
You couldn't drink.
And I couldn't drink. Yeah,
So you're just wandering around.
My dry January. Yeah, soberly wandering around Syracuse looking for like juice.
Oh.
Yeah,
And it's cold.
I don't mind the weather. Everything.
You're from Wisconsin.
Climate-wise was great.
Yeah.
But every other part of it, I was like, what is happening?
Okay. Wow. I had almost landed that plane and took back off.
Take it, Sully.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.